welcome everybody. On behalf of Westcon, I would like to welcome you to the safe journey to the cloud with Keepit. Introducing the Westcon team here today, we have myself as Steve Sherwood, the Channel Development Manager for Westcon, Sophie Dennett, Vendor Business Manager, Grant Woodbury, Solutions Engineer. This session today is going to be recorded, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Just drop a note in the chat and we'll look to answer those. And furthermore, at the completion of this webinar, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Danny and Jeremy from Keepit. And with that said, Danny, I'll hand the session over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Here we go. I'm just sharing my screen. Just confirming everybody can see my screen. Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Great to have the opportunity to present today and introduce everybody on the call today to Keepit. I think some of you on the call today may already be aware of who Keepit is, SaaS application data protection, and what we offer. And for some of you, this will be the first time that you actually get to hear about Keepit or get introduced to Keepit. So I'm going to talk about our solution, who Keepit is, why SaaS backup recovery is so critical to organizations. And now I'm going to take you into the platform actually and show a few key features that really differentiate us from any other SaaS application data protection vendor in market. Then Jeremy's going to take us through or share an incentive program that we're running above and beyond the partner and deal registration program. So as I think Steve mentioned, feel free to ask any questions, just type them in. Perhaps we'll get a chance as we go through the presentation today to take them on. Otherwise, we'll when we close out the presentation today, we'll have a chance to answer a lot of those questions that come through. Typically, as we go through the presentation, a lot of those questions will be answered, but feel free to fire them through anyway. So by way of introductions to Keepit, Keepit is a dedicated and independent SaaS application data protection vendor. For SaaS applications that we all know, like Microsoft 365, Azure AD, Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, Google Workspace, there's more than that's on this slide. I need to update the slide. We've also released capabilities for Power BI and Zendesk, with more coming. We're a software company specializing in cloud data backup and recovery with more than 20 years experience, and we're born in the cloud, and we were first actually SaaS application data protection vendor supporting multiple workloads or cloud workloads such as Microsoft 365, Dynamics, Salesforce, and Google Workspace. And there's a few key points I just want to hone in on that Keepit provides to our customers, and we'll talk a little bit more throughout the presentation as to why partner with Keepit. But there's some key features to Keepit. And one of those being, if you look at the cloud in the middle here, the green cloud, data availability, and what that means for our customers never lose access to their data. With Keepit, data is stored in our vendor neutral cloud instead of public platforms like AWS or Azure, making Keepit a true third-party backup. If you think about the old typical, I say old, but if you think about a typical 3-2-1 backup strategy that we're so used to from an on-prem world, we achieve the same thing with Keepit. Multiple copies, in actual fact, 4 copies of data and offsite outside of the public cloud in our vendor neutral cloud. So outside of the cloud where the data is actually being created. And it's never made sense to me looking out there in the market, why we'd be backing up critical SaaS application data in the same location that's being created. And so we really are a true third-party cloud backup provider. And another key aspect here that I want to hone in on is robust security. We're always secure, and this means that our customers know 100% that their data is safe. Keepit is actually based off blockchain-based storage, and this ensures unparalleled security and ransomware protection. So the actual backup data is immutable, undeletable, unamendable. So that guarantees to our customers, should the worst ever happen, a cybersecurity event such as ransomware, that their backup data is available 24/7 for them to be able to recover should the worst case scenario happen. So it's really key to customers and few prospects as well, that around the security being immutable, undeleteable, unamendable. So I really kind of want to hone in on that attribute of Keepit. And then there's simplicity. We've really made the complex very, very simple in Keepit world. It actually takes only a couple of minutes to get even the biggest customers up and running with Keepit, providing protection to their SaaS application data, as well as the smallest customers from 5 to thousands and thousands of users, customers. It only takes a few minutes to actually set up. So it's a very simple interface, and I'll take you on a little tour further into the presentation today. But it actually means that our customers require no training. Now, my background myself, I did many years of Veritas, so I'm very used to very complex deployments for backup reasons, where you've got project management, where you've got engineering, speed, storage, and the rest that makes it very complex. And that is definitely not the case with Keepit. It is turnkey, rapid solution to deploy, and it takes a few minutes. There's another key attribute here as well. Instant search and recovery. We provide our customers with the ability to get their data back up, recovered in seconds, to be able to locate, preview it before recovery, and I'll cover that off a little bit later on, but be able to restore it instantly with granular search and recovery features. And that's a key differentiator for us. A lot of other vendors in market are using tiered or cold storage. It doesn't make a difference how long a customer of Keepit has been using Keepit. It could be 5 years, it could be over. They're going to be able to instantly find any data set within the Keepit platform, be able to recover it from 5 years ago instantly. It's all hot spinning disk in the data center. There's no tiered cold storage, meaning again that we can stand by the statement, being able to find that data instantly and be able to recover it. And I'll give you an example of that later on in the presentation as well. Another key attribute is cost-effective and scalable. So the licensing is very simple as well. So simple platforms from a usability point of view, simple platform from a licensing point of view. So we're looking at active licensing incurring against active, for example, Microsoft 365 users. There's no hidden storage, hidden cost whatsoever. So no storage, ingress, egress. It's just per active user included with unlimited storage and retention. So that's a very, very big key item there. So if we look at shared mailboxes, for example, that doesn't incur a Microsoft 365 license, and therefore we protect it for free. And so again, very, very simple from a licensing point of view. We're able to protect the entire environment, but again, it's just active users. If a user leaves an organization, that's considered a retired user. Now the organization is free to remove that Microsoft or reclaim that Microsoft 365 license. And they've got the backup there, 24/7 available to do instant recoveries or cross-user recoveries, share the OneDrive to another member of staff at no Keepit cost. So some key attributes there that I wanted to share. Now, I wanted to cover off like why SaaS backup is so critical. I think it's just so many organizations, I'm still talking to organizations that have made the move to cloud, and they think that their data is safe in the cloud, that the ownership of responsibility to protect their own users and corporate data is now with Microsoft or Google, for example. So I just wanted to take a look at those kind of common scenarios for data loss and just why SaaS application data protection recovery is just so critical to organizations. It's probably no surprise to anybody on the call today that 70% of CIOs have made a cloud-first strategy. And this covers all, I think, all sectors, all verticals, like government, finance, healthcare. The adoption to SaaS is absolutely monumental, huge. Everybody's jumping on board. And I suppose in some regards, this was for some organizations driven by COVID, a lot of people working from home, and they needed collaboration tools such as Microsoft and Office 365. And there were some key benefits straight away, like agility, moving to SaaS, the ability to support agile IT in ways that on-prem management and maintenance couldn't facilitate. So they're able to adapt rapidly to any change of organizational change, and scalability, providing the ability to rapidly scale up and down as change is needed. I suppose, given the global economic climate at the moment and budgets are shifting, in a SaaS world, it's easier for IT to accommodate those kind of budgetary constraints or changes by adding or including additional licensing or shedding subscriptions, rather than being stuck with the kind of legacy workloads that we're so used to being on-prem. And capacity, they bought the capacity and they're stuck with it. Very different in a SaaS world. And then from a staffing point of view, as you can see on the slide here, it's very different in a SaaS world, looking at these collaboration platforms. So it reduces the need for on-prem management of applications, storage, updates, security patches, maintenance, freeing IT to do far more valuable activities than they were previously. Most of the time in the old world, we used to see engineers walking around having to update this, update that, walking around screwdrivers. Now they're really in a SaaS world just concentrating on the users, the data being key in this particular case, and application administration. So again, a key message for me is really moving to SaaS doesn't absolve the customer or the organizations that you know of the responsibility to protect their end user and corporate data. Now, just talking about the main reasons for data loss. The most common one still is human error. Human error covers a gamut of different factors, I suppose, but it's definitely still the main cause of data error. And human error could be misconfiguration of retention policies, and we'll touch upon a horrific story out there where that was exactly the case, where so many thousands of users were impacted in a big organization. Improper data loads that overwrite good data with bad, or end user accidental deletions, and certainly that's the most common. Then you've got malicious activity. Hopefully we don't see this too often, but it does exist out there. We see the horrible news stories, disgruntled employees or unauthorized users deleting or maliciously damaging data. And that also includes malware, including ransomware as well. And then more rare, I suppose, is problematic errors, sync errors, integration errors, both of which can overwrite good data with bad or delete good data. But again, the most common issue, I suppose, out there for the reason for data loss is user error. So the end user in the organization who accidentally deletes something or overwrites something a couple of weeks later or a couple of months later discovers. And across the customers I mainly talk to, that tends to be the thing that I see as well. 6 months post something, they realize that that data was deleted accidentally, and they need the ability to instantly be able to recover. I took a few snapshots of some Twitter feeds. I think we've all seen so many posts nowadays with cybersecurity incidents occurring. All organizations, I think it's front of mind nowadays. But again, thinking about SaaS application data protection, I suppose the whole position that a lot of organizations have made this jump into Microsoft 365, for example, without thinking about how are they going to protect that data as they did in an on-prem world. And you can see at the bottom left, hopefully it's probably needs blowing up a little bit here, but it's showing from CERT New Zealand just the kind of journey life cycle of ransomware. And the aim, of course, as you probably all know on the call today, is encrypting the data, but the key here is deleting those backups or destroying the backups so the organization doesn't have a position to be able to recover, to get back working, and therefore they're stuck. They're going to have to basically pay the ransomware to unencrypt their data. So recovery is absolutely key, but beyond that, having immutable backups. And that's where immutable backups with Keepit is just so crucial for all organizations. In the middle there, we can see another Twitter feed just talking about the financial impact, the financial loss, according to ransomware attacks for New Zealand. Now, I think in this particular case, so many organizations haven't really reported every single instance. I know nowadays with cybersecurity penalties, they have to, as well as being, if you want to have insurance, cyber insurance, you're definitely going to have a SaaS application data protection platform at play. But the financial impact is far greater, I believe, out there. But when talking to organizations, I think this is just key, is what would it mean to an organization to lose access to their email, to lose access to the SharePoint, the collaboration platforms? Most of the organizations I speak to at the front end are trying to protect their environment, but as a last line of defense, absolutely backup is key here. And I think, you know, from news reports all the way through to Twitter, a lot of the organizations we speak to are beginning to understand that. But I always hammer home the message that backup is absolutely a last line of defense. And moving to SaaS, these are now critical workloads. Just talking from the previous slide, human error, I don't think it gets worse than this particular example. I mean, I think of human error in regards to somebody's accidentally deleted a couple of files from SharePoint, for example, and we need to recover them straight away. But in the case of KPMG, human error was a little bit bigger than that, had far wider impact. So this was actually not a malicious act in any shape or form. It was a complete accident. Just an administrator attempted to remove a single user's account from an active retention policy. So simple human error, but it actually destroyed instead over 145 users, teams and channels and personal chat histories. And I think if we look inside organizations, now I'm going to talk a little bit later about the coverage of Keepit in regards to Microsoft 365 and other workloads, but the ability to be able to protect Microsoft Teams channels, be able to recover the post back in place, including not just the conversations, the files, but also the emojis, that's how far we go, is just so key to organizations. So many organizations, even Keepit ourselves, we've got channel chats now covering, sales, finance, marketing. A lot of information is stored within Teams. So having any kind of impact on team channels, the ability to be able to recover is just key. So this is probably the worst case scenario. And it also highlights Microsoft's inability to recover because they're not providing backup. Their role in SaaS, providing Microsoft 365, is availability. So the infrastructure, not data protection. So in this case, that was a huge IT blunder that actually really had a huge impact here and obviously made the news. And again, compounds the fact that it's a responsibility of the customer to take care of their own end user and corporate data. And malicious deletion, it does happen. I don't see, hopefully we don't see it too often, but whether it's hacking or insider threats, as we saw from the previous slide, just talking about different scenarios for data loss, there is plenty of examples on how businesses have lost their data due to malicious acts. So in this particular case, a resentful employee deleted 1,200 accounts after being fired. So still had access, was able to purge all that data, and that had a massive impact to the organization. The users internally in the organization could no longer access their email, contacts, any kind of meetings. They're not going to know what the meetings are. They've lost access to that, all their documents, corporate directories, everything that's incorporated that they use on a daily basis. But I think far more impacting as well is the fact that their customers can't reach out to them. So straight away, outside of the company, customers, vendors, and consumers were unable to reach the company's employees, and they were unable to have that kind of dialogue. So 2 days downtime, it was actually a lot more than that. That was probably 2 days till they had some form of operation again, communication internally and externally, but it actually took months and months to actually get the back up running the way that they needed to be running, and costs were well over 500,000. I think that's understated when we talk about 500,000. And ransomware, as we talked about, it's just growing all the time. So that ability to have cyber resilience, last line of defense being SaaS application data protection, the ability to be able to recover. Ransomware attacks are just becoming more and more frequent. There's a report actually by ESG from 2021 where it talks about this massive growth of ransomware. We're hearing it in the press, we're reading about it all the time. It's affecting so many organizations. What was interesting to me from the report from 2021 was about 79%, well 80%, let's call it, of the respondents actually having experienced ransomware attacks within the last year had huge financial impacts. So they weren't able to resolve the issue quickly and efficiently. You can see on the slide here that one of our customers was affected by ransomware. Again, instant recovery, no matter what the data set, being able to recover that data back in place restores the position, so they don't have to pay ransomware. And there's just so many cases. I'm not going to go through them all, but ASA, CNA, Kaseya, for example, that was a really large, had a huge impact out there. But again, the position being that as a last line of defense, having a backup solution such as Keepit, being able to recover that data, access it, find it, be able to recover it instantly is just becoming so key to organizations. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about and hone in on some of the items that I covered before, just around Keepit and why partnering with Keepit is just so beneficial for you, and what we provide to our partners. So I mentioned before that Keepit was rapid to deploy. So no focused turnkey solution, no hardware, no storage you have to think about, no complexity there. So from a partner point of view, there's just no overhead in delivering the solution. Typical on-prem backup solutions that we've seen in the past that you may have worked with in the past, took a project management team, an engineering team, etc., on-prem, to tweak feeds and play around to get that solution working the way that it needs to be, or working on retention policies, etc., to fine tune so that it's in production. There's no partner overheads at all in engineering in this particular case. It's a turnkey solution, stood up instantly. So it streamlines your whole sales cycle. So you're able to deliver this to your customers rapidly. I think also talking about the ransomware proof blockchain storage means that there's a security position here as well. I've got a few partners over in Australia that were just basically security focused. So they deal with antivirus, malware, filters, etc., firewalls, etc. And they've been able to adopt Keepit as a security stance, as a last line of defense for their organizations, part of their security portfolio. So this is some of the key items here from a partner enablement point of view, how you can deliver this very rapidly out to your customer base from a security standpoint, and with little overhead in regards to your organization having to put a lot of resources into deployments. Now, I'm just going to talk about coverage. Now, in Australia, particularly, I think it's the same for you guys as well in New Zealand. I'm based out of Australia, just so I will reference both countries. In regards to Microsoft 365, I'm definitely seeing that going gangbusters from a deployment point of view in all sectors, and particularly education. I'm seeing a swap from Google Workspace. But what's key to me when we talk about coverage, and particularly Keepit coverage in this particular aspect, is not just the ability to back up or protect all these different data sets, but being able to recover them all. So if you look at Exchange here, we've got all the different types of Exchange components that you would need from the get-go. So the ability to back up people's Outlook mail, task calendar, in-place archive, shared mailboxes, public folders. You can recover any individual item if you need to, or recover a whole Exchange inbox for a particular user. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about object-based recovery in a few minutes. OneDrive. Full feature set here, being able to back up, protect those workloads, those data sets, groups and teams, the ability to protect those critical data workloads. I was talking to an education department just recently who had relatively small, I think they only had about 2,000 students, but they also had almost as many channel chats for those students in regards to communication, timetables, etc. We're all using Microsoft Teams so much. In some regards, it's hard sometimes to know where the data is being stored when people are asking, I've lost something. Being able to search across the platform very easily, which I'll show you, and be able to recover that instantly is just so key. Because realistically now it could be in the inbox, it could be in Microsoft Teams, it could be in SharePoint. But what's key for me is in-place recovery. We're able to protect Teams and be able to put it back in place. That includes even down to the finite detail of being able to, the GIFs, the emojis. So that is just becoming such a differentiator for us, where so many organizations are using these features more and more. And in SharePoint, you're looking at permissions, document libraries, all site collections. So yes, you can recover a complete SharePoint site the way that it needs to be. But beyond that, if you think about a critical HR site, for example, something's changed. So people can't access all of a sudden. We could recover the whole site, but we can actually, because it's object-based backup, object-based recovery, we could just recover the permissions to get that site back working again. These are kind of key items I'm mentioning here that differentiate us from other competitors in the market. The ease of use, full protection, but full recoverability back in place. And that speaks to the recoverability options at the bottom. And some of these I'll show you at the bottom of the slide, and I'll show you in the product demonstration. So in-place recovery, being able to do cross-user recovery, that's a 6-click process. And that's probably one of the most common scenarios for one of my big customers. They're not doing ad hoc, users deleted this email. Probably their users are pretty well trained and don't delete things. But what they tend to find is they have the requirement where they need to share somebody's OneDrive from 6 months ago that's left the organization with another member of staff, and potentially a new member of staff, or share the inbox with another member of staff. And that's a very, very easy, quick wizard in the Keepit platform. 6 clicks and it's shared with another member of staff, and it's auditable, tracked in the platform as well. Being able to download that data locally if we needed to. A shareable link option is very highly widely used. The shareable link option gives us the ability to, let's say Joe Blogs, I'm just going to use that name, Joe Blogs rings in, I've lost something from my OneDrive, I think it's from my OneDrive, I don't know what it's called, I don't know what kind of file extension is, I don't know whether it's PowerPoint, whether it's a Word, but I need it back, I need it now. What we're able to do within Keepit as a unique feature is being able to take that OneDrive, share it as a password protected encrypted link to the user, and then they can trawl through their own OneDrive in a read-only view of the backup to be able to pull down that file locally, to download it. And I'll show you that firsthand, because that's a very utilized feature, and particularly for larger organizations, it just means that first line support, second line support, in Keepit's case, first line support can handle the backup because it's so intuitive and so easy to use. It means rather than digging through backups and trying to work out what needs recovery, even though you've got a preview option, you can view it first, we can share it back to the user and they can dig through their own backup data in a read-only view to be able to actually access that critical file, download it to the local machine and continue working, or cross-site SharePoint recovery. If I touch on Azure AD, I think Azure AD is just so critical to organizations. And again, if we look at other vendors in market, I think only one really has this, and very limited. It's just roles and activity logs. We have definitely the market leading solution from Azure AD point of view, because we recognize that Microsoft Azure AD is the gatekeeper. It's the identity management piece behind accessing Microsoft 365 applications. So even if you've got an on-prem AD, which I do see, syncing up to Azure AD. I think in Australia, I've only spoken to 2 organizations so far. One was actually financial, that was purely Azure AD. But even when you're syncing from on-prem, this is a critical workload that needs protecting and rapid recovery as well. I think 95% of the world's Fortune 1000 enterprises have migrated to Microsoft Cloud. And if you didn't know, cyber criminals certainly do. So this is a ransomwareable asset. Being able to impact people's access to Microsoft 365 is going to impact a business. So this is definitely a target. So the ability to be able to protect this, but also be able to recover it is just so key. And there's some differences here as well. It's not just from a recovery point of view, because you've got this data stored as per your retention policy. I mentioned on the first slide, unlimited retention. Well, if you set some Keepit retention for 99 years, you've got activity logs for 99 years. And that's a great tool then for auditors. I've seen other organizations go through ISO and needed access to this from a roles and activity logs. And now they can provide it as a quick and easy download report from within Keepit. But there's a differential view that we provide because we're backing up the metadata. It means that we can see those changes occurring. So I can look at a particular user, maybe they had access to something and all of a sudden it's changed, they can't access this. Well, I could instantly recover the attribute back in Azure AD to get them back working again, but I can also see what happened. What did it look like yesterday? What did it look like the day before? And tie that into who made the change, for example. So that differential reporting view becomes really powerful from a diagnostic viewpoint. Now, I probably will skip over some of these slides, but I just want to hone in on a few of the other SaaS application workloads that we protect. So Salesforce, granular backup recovery. I think so many organizations, when we touch upon like Dynamics as well, they've adopted these kind of SaaS solutions. They're business critical. This is the CRM of the organization, as is Dynamics. So that ability to have unlimited retention, but also granular recovery. We go beyond when we start protecting these environments, because not only if I had a record that I need to recover, it recognizes the associated records. So as a recovery item, it's going to offer that to me. Do I want to recover all attributes at the same time? And it will recover the associated records, which means speed of recovery becomes key. We can recover into sandboxes, we can recover in place. This is becoming a tool that certainly I've got a lot of customers and prospects looking at. And it makes sense, really. This is business critical for them. As the same when we look at Microsoft Dynamics. So the ability to protect Dynamics. with unlimited retention should that be required. So again, associated records. What's key for me here is Microsoft provide full site recovery. So let's say I was using Dynamics and I deleted a few records and I made a few mistakes. I'm going to have to basically now spin a full environment in Microsoft to then try and extrapolate what I need from it. We do in-place recovery, so an associated record recovery. So granular object-based recovery and associated records. So it means instantly I can get this recovery done and the system back the way that it needed to be in the first place. So very comprehensive. Google Workspace. It's still heavily used out there. So this covers all your Gmail, sites, calendars, drives, folders, etc. Again, depending on your retention policy, it could be for life, 99 years and above. One of the key things I'd like to say here is when you turn on these features, and I'll show you in a second, when you create a connector in Keepit. I talked about the deployment being only a couple of minutes. It is just a couple of minutes. Once you've set it up, it automatically defaults and collects everything for you. And the only setting you will have to think about is the retention policy. So you don't even have to think about the how often the snapshots are running. It's all automated for you, giving you the ability to deploy this rapidly, the customer to be able to use the platform easily with full peace of mind that the whole environment is being protected. Now I'm just going to I'll touch on security very quickly, and then I'm going to just jump into the product and show you a few key features. I think just so important, we talked about some security from a storage point of view, immutable, undeletable, unappendable backups, but also from an architecture point of view. It's very, very secure. So we've got 2 data centers in Australia, providing data sovereignty for us in Australia and New Zealand as well. It's an active mirror. So at any one point of time, we'll have 4 copies of your data. So that talks to the 3-2-1 principle. Multiple copies and outside of the same place we're creating the data, being public cloud. It's an active mirror. There's some great things here in the way that we've architected this, even from deployment of patches. So we're releasing new innovation, new features all the time. There's no downtime to the environment at all. So customers never have to think about, oh, I've got to turn this off. It's going to be offline for 3 hours while the maintenance or management is run over the top, because we've got the dual data centers in active mode. It means we're able to update one of the environments and then replicate to the other. So it means you've always got access, or customers do, 24/7 to their backup data should they need to recover. And we've got all the normal certification that you could expect, SOC 2, ISO from a data center point of view. We actually partner with Equinix, have done for many years across the globe and locally here. And there's no process by which we can move data out of Australia. Once the data is chosen, or the repository being in Sydney, or rather Equinix in Australia, then that's where the data resides. There's no process for us to be able to move that anywhere. So from a data sovereignty point of view, we achieve that straight away from using Keepit. Now, there's a few key features that I'll show you actually in a product demonstration in just a second. I wanted to show you how simple the platform is from your customer's point of view. It's very intuitive. I haven't had to show anybody beyond a demonstration how to use it. It's just wizard driven all the way through. Smart search, I touched upon it earlier on, being able to find that data straight away, instantly, and be able to recover it instantly. We've got some really nice features as well, like deleted items view. If I'm looking for somebody's lost something in their OneDrive, they deleted it. Well, I've got a deleted view that highlights it straight away to me. What's being deleted, so I can instantly click on recover. The difference in recovery options, like shared link we touched upon, and also versions for SharePoint and OneDrive. We're the first vendor to do this, and I think it's absolutely critical for organizations with so many people now using SharePoint and this kind of collaboration. Even myself and Jeremy, when we were working on a proposal just recently for a big bank, there was about 5 of us working on the document. And with 5 of us working on the document, there was definitely some errors. Somebody deleted quite a few items. By the time we came to submit, we recognized that we were missing chunks all over the place. Still don't know who did it, but because we have version control, as in protection of versions beyond the snapshot, it means that we can recover not just from a snapshot point of view, but also all of the versions. And that's extremely powerful and a unique feature to Keepit. And then I'm going to cover file preview, being able to view a file, what's needed for recovery before recovery. So I can talk to a user, does it look like this, and instant recovery. So with that, I'll just give me a second while I just open up my, just need to log into the demo platform, otherwise it time out on me. I just thought it'd be valuable to have a quick look at this. So again, you can get a feel for how intuitive, how easy it is to use Keepit. I'll just pop that on the big screen. There we go. So as we come in, this is the Keepit platform. I get a viewpoint straight away of how my connectors are working. Each particular, we could have multiple connectors for Microsoft 365. In a really large environment, we typically would see that. We might have one for Teams and SharePoint. We might have one for Outlook, OneDrive. It's highly customizable depending on the size of the organization. But straight from the get-go, I'm able to see when I'm logging in, well, what's happening here? How many backups have I done? So it's a dashboard viewpoint that help me ascertain what's been happening and what's actually being protected. But what I really want to show you is just from a connector point of view. Mine's, again, simple kind of demo platform here, not as many connectors as I might see in some environments. You're not paying for connectors, you're just paying for active user licenses, or your customers are. Now, in the case of Microsoft 365, I'm going to use this as an example here. If I had a call from a member of staff, I've lost something, I need to look for something and recover it, it's very easy in the platform. I talked about that Keepit Smart Search, being able to find specific items straight away. Well, I can, in the top here, come over, search for an item. I could actually, if it was one of my members of staff here, like Adele, I could drill in, okay, it was in OneDrive. I can come in here and start looking for the actual file folder. I could preview it from here. Did it look like this? Does it contain this? This preview feature really helps IT administrators be able to identify what it needs, what needs recovering straight away, rather than having to keep recovering items only for it to be incorrect. So from this window, if I'm talking to somebody, I can say, well, is this what you wanted? Well, then I can recover it straight away. I can recover all the different versions if I wanted to, or this particular from a snapshot. I can also share it from here. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So that preview is great from an ability to speedily be able to resolve the issue and move on to the next task that the IT administrator has. So what you're seeing here is the ability to drill through if I needed to. But if I just go back up, let's say a typical user actually probably doesn't know where the document was stored in the first place. So what I'm able to do here is search. And even if I make mistakes in regards to spelling mistakes, it's still going to pull in the most associated record. So therefore, even if I've got a spelling issue, or I'm getting the wrong information from a user in this regard, how it's spelled, I'm still going to be able to find what I need. And so what I've got here is a quick view. This could be across OneDrive, it could be across SharePoint, in Teams as well, because most users don't know where the data is. I find it myself when I'm looking for things, it could be in Teams and I have to dig around. It's actually easier now to find it in the backup system in the backup solution that is on my own machine. So if I have a look here, I've got a item. I could, if I needed to, recover straight from here, all the versions. I could share a link, which I'll show you in just a second. But if I come in here, I can confirm that this is the item that we wanted and straight away recover from here. At the same time, if it was versions, I touched on versions just a few minutes ago. So we're taking 2 snapshots per day, but with, you know, in the SharePoint world, so many of us are working on the same document. So the ability to be able to grab those, and that's what we've done through the APIs. We built this where we can actually recover the versions as well. So beyond just a snapshot, particularly when we're looking at SharePoint and OneDrive, this, you know, these updates happen all the time. So here we can see multiple updates to this particular document. So I can take the latest and restore that particular version. Now the user's in place, so the user's now working again. So these are just really key features I'm just trying to hone in on that make it so easy for our customers to be able to quickly recover data, find what they're looking for, and get that user back working again. Now, I'm just going to show you the shared link as well. So we talked about different recovery options being in place, shared link download, PST download, cross user recovery, which I'll show you in a second. But if Adele, for some reason, had an issue. There's something deleted from a OneDrive. Well, yes, I could search for it if I needed to. I could use the deleted items view. But beyond that, what I can do is come in here and I can share via a password protected encrypted link to the user their actual OneDrive. So therefore, they can dig through and read-only view and actually dig out the document they need and download it and carry on working. So I can set a time limit to this. It's going to be unlimited here. I'm actually going to set it for 5 minutes. I can add a password. I won't now because otherwise I'll have to type it out as part of this. But I'm just going to copy this link. There we go. Let me just make sure I've got it. And so once I've saved that, now I can share that with the user. In this particular case, I'm just going to open up Edge and just show you that same link. So this is a very, very handy, very utilized ability within Keepit to be able to share data back to a user in a read-only format. So you can see here, I'm not some administrator like I was in the other Google, but I can come in here, okay, that was what I was working on, that's what I need, and now I can download it. So that's a great feature that our customers absolutely love. So download it from here. Also means instant access. If we talk about instant recovery times, I'm not even have to do it in place. I've now shared it back to the user. I can close the ticket from a customer's point of view, and now they can continue working. Just close that for a second. Just wanted to show you that. I'm just going to touch upon now Azure AD. We talked about this being so key for organizations, whether they know it or not. If they're using Microsoft 365, this is the gatekeeper identity management side of Microsoft 365. So that ability to be able to protect gives us the ability to be able to recover back in place should the worst happen. In this particular case, I mentioned as well the ability for us to do, because we're backing up the metadata, to be able to see what changes are occurring. So if I just have a look here, I'm just going to have a look at the metadata in this particular case. So let's say, for example, something's happened on an application administrator. I can't really give a scenario for this one, but let's say something's happened. What we're able to do here is actually come in, well, what's it look like today? What's changed? What did it look like previously? So very easy to use this from a diagnostic point of view beyond just being able to do recovery and get the person back working again. So what I can see here is Alan was added. Okay, that's probably not a problem for me, but if he was removed, that's probably going to explain why he can't action something. So again, I can do instant recovery, get him back working again, but now I can work out who was responsible if I needed to from an auditability point of view. What has happened that caused that in the first place? So Azure AD, and I mentioned before, object-based backup gives us the ability to be able to recover single objects. So SharePoint is such a critical workload now. If I looked at a particular SharePoint site, I have the ability to just recover the permissions. We can recover the whole site if I want to do the whole site, or just the documents, the list, the permissions, the site columns, content, etc. So it means that our customers have the flexibility to choose what they need to recover to get back working straight away. And so here we can see overwrite, in place recovery, or restore as a brand new URL. So I kind of, I'll mention a few more things, then we'll go back to kind of a bit more about incentive programs, etc. So everything is tracked in the actual platform. So every public link, every action that occurs within the platform is tracked. So from an auditability point of view, we know every single aspect. As I was clicking through, it recognizes me now. Of course, this is a demo platform, so I'm Keepit. Everybody in the demo platform is Keepit. If that's not normal in production, I'd be my name, and so I can see exactly what I've been doing, and we can report on that if I needed to, and be able to download every aspect. If I needed to do cross-site recovery or cross-user recovery, again, it's all wizard-driven. If I just come over here, member of staff leaves, and I need to recover to another member of staff, it's just so easy to do what you need to do instantly. And again, instant recovery because it's all hot spinning disk. In this particular case, I'm taking a OneDrive. I'm going to say Alex, wouldn't really take a conference room. I'm going to do Alex to Adele, or Adele, in this case to Adele. That wouldn't be right, but I can go next, and straight away, it's giving me all the options that are needed to ensure that I'm doing the recovery in the right way that I need to. So new folder in place, skip duplicates, rename duplicates, overwrite existing items. So again, just wanted to kind of show you the ease of use in the platform, but again, from a coverage point of view, what it really means to be able to protect all of this very seamlessly and be able to recover instantly as well. I'm just going to go back to the slides. So just as I pass over to Jeremy, just for talking a little bit more about the kind of incentive program that we have above and beyond the partner program and deal registration. Just wanted to kind of hone in. I think, you know, talking to your customers and the opportunity out there is just customers should be making backup an absolute priority. Ease of use, the ability to retrieve, search, find what they're looking for, recovery options, being able to recover Teams chat back in place is absolutely, or channels back in place is absolutely key for organizations. They probably just don't know it until it's highlighted to them. So again, we do full recovery, emojis included. Also true independence from a protection point of view, workloads being backed up outside of the cloud that they're actually being created in. I've also got some quite a few customers that came across in the last couple of months around vendor lock-in. They didn't want all of their data being stored and backed up into Microsoft when which is vendor lock-in for them. Everything's in Microsoft, so that third-party true independent backup was so key to them. Speed of recovery as well, being able to preview shared links, different ways of getting that data, finding it and recovering it straight away, and recoverability options. And so with that, I will pass over to Jeremy just to talk a little bit more about the incentive campaign. Are you there, Jeremy?
Yep, thank you, Danny. So as Danny mentioned, we have a Keepit sales incentive program that ties in obviously with today, but obviously those joining and those that have partnered up with Westcon as well. So we have been able to have it extended through to the 31st of December of this year. Though it does mention it was September 30, but we have had that now extended. So there's two types of incentives. Incentive one is ops over 250 users, and the second incentive is for ops over 500 users. The key components is that partners are invited to pitch the offering nationwide sales teams. Keepit and Westcon will run face-to-face sessions to assist when launching, to assist all national sales teams. Just the next slide. Thanks, Danny. So the program looks like this. As I mentioned, incentive one, opportunities over 250 seats, is a total earn of $175, with the deal reg incentive. So the breakdown of that is, so you get you'll achieve $25 for the registration and activity. Part of that will be documentation of conversations and emails and correspondence. $50 would be an end user meeting. So with Keepit or Westcon, basically inviting us in to provide the presentation and demonstration. That would be either with Danny or myself, along with our SC for the region, which is Chris Herrick, to provide for your customer. And then the $100 closed deal part of that incentive, which is obviously the customer providing a purchase order to you to finalize the deal. So that's what the breakdown of the $175 is. For incentive program number two, it's opportunities over 500 seats where you can earn $275. Similar breakdown, obviously the $25 for the deal reg in channel activity, the $50 for the presentation and demonstration to the end customer, along with either ourselves or Westcon, and then the $200 closed deal, which is the receiving of the purchase order. And as I said, that totals $275. Thanks, Danny. So terms and conditions, as I mentioned, first thing is that we've had it extended. So it's beyond September 30, so it goes through to the end of the year at 31st of December. This year, incentives are paid for any opportunities 250 to 10,000 and above. It's a gift card incentive, I guess, paid to opportunity of the owner, sales rep, however your business is structured, however that is to be distributed, depend on any sort of special terms within your own business. And then obviously then once that deal is done, then that is confirmed via Keepit and Westcon to then provide those cards. Just some other So these gift cards, yeah, they cannot be exchanged or redeemed for cash, and obviously tax purposes received for the sole responsibility of the card holder. So a signed partner agreement needs to be completed by the partner. So if you're obviously got to be a partner or a member with Westcon. If you haven't, if you're on today and you're not a partner of Keepit as of yet, please reach out to us. We'll run through that process and get you onboarded as a partner. It's a very simple process, and we can have that arranged ASAP. So that's another obviously part of the terms and conditions. But outside that, if you have any questions over this, please feel free to email myself or Danny. We can come back to you with any sort of queries in relation to the incentive program. But really excited to get this activated with everyone. And as I mentioned, any questions, please just refer back to us.
I think I'll just mention this is an incentive program on top of the incentives already for deal registrations, being a partner anyway with partner margins, depending on the kind of level of partnership. So this is just an additional on top incentive program.
Yep.
And so with that, we're into the questions. So I'm just trying to work out how I see those.
Okay. Danny, we do have a question here that was posed as, what is the deployment project or customer effort needed?
Oh, minimal. And so I can talk to some really big deployments we've done. I just deployed on Monday to 500 seats. It's took probably about 15 minutes maximum. The only thing we need to know at the very beginning, now typically we'll do that with yourselves, or we'll do it for you, but we just need a backup administrator or an account being created that we can tie into the connector. So we'll use a global administration account to begin with. As soon as the first backup is completed, we can remove that role from the Microsoft account that we're using, dedicated for backup. And so from a security point of view, but it is so absolutely rapid. To create a connector, it's just new connector, and that's it. It's a wizard, 3 steps, and that's it. Protections sorted. So even to the biggest customers, I mean, we've got some giants over 60,000, some new opportunities in Australia, like into hundreds of thousands. Again, it's rapid. The only thing we ever have to think about is, do we want to break up the connectors? You know, in education, I tend to find a connector per year for retention policy and per year. Again, you're not paying for connectors, you're just paying for active Microsoft 365 licenses. So again, that's pretty rapid to deploy. So from the smallest to the largest customers, we are talking a turnkey solution.
Fantastic. Now, for the audience that's on this webinar, please drop any other questions in the chat for any last minute. But before we check the chat window, if you are wishing to learn more about Keepit and how we as Keepit can come across in conjunction with Westcon to support your customers and yourselves, please drop us a line, as you can see in the presentation, to either Sophie or myself, and at Westcon we'll work alongside Keepit as part of your virtual team. So checking the questions, and at the moment there is no additional questions there. So with that said, just wish to thank everybody for your attendance. As mentioned, this session has been recorded. We'll look at getting that out to you very soon. And on behalf of Westcon New Zealand and Keepit, I'd like to thank you for today and wish you a great afternoon ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Have a great
Bye-bye.